right, guys, and we're back. We're here with Silky, Wave,
Hi.
and Gabriel. Gabriel is our winner. He is our Chaos Breaker pilot. So I kind of want to start with Gabriel. You were making a lot of plays, and one of the things that I mentioned while we were going through everything in game 2, you went into Deluge, and you had the opportunity to put his starter into the damage. Talk me through your process on making those decisions with Deluge as to what you put into the damage zone, since it's not restricted to specifically the cards that he puts down. What made you make those choices based on the knowledge that you had?
For me, mostly, I like to keep a nice triangle lock because it restricts your opponent to just having back row attackers, and with only back row attackers, there's only like a handful of decks that have ways of swinging from the back row, so they just have to deal with those two circles. And pinging for damage, it'd be best for me not to give them a booster for their Vanguard or 2 rear guards in the front row to swing with, so I just choose one of the 2 most optimal places to ping a damage for. Other than that, yeah.
You killed it anyway. Like,
well, yeah.
you killed the starter anyway. But yeah, and I think also something that's interesting is I think when you flipped a card, I can't remember what you flipped for, but was that a proxy when I saw you flip Amnesty?
No.
No?
Deluge flips whatever you want.
Yeah, but well, I guess what we're pointing at is this was like a show match. You knew you were going against Aquaforce, and you still had. Was that intentional, or were you just like?
Like my first Deluge turn, if I'm not facing like another Link Joker player, I'll pretty much just flip my Amnesty, and after that, it pretty much just depends on how the game's looking.
So you basically just kept it just to flip.
Yeah. So that brings me, I guess, to our deck building choices, because I want to ask both of you guys, going into this, did you each specifically make your deck for this matchup, or did you make more of a generalist deck and G-Zone to go into any matchup to see like what we would expect out of Blue Wave and Chaos in a tournament if we had this matchup in a large scale tournament where your deck was made to fight anything? So I'll start with Gabriel.
For my deck, it's pretty much how I plan on the deck being after the Link Joker set drops. That's I've pretty much practiced and tested with the deck to know how the ins and outs of cards from that set and pool work. And like the only things that just had me on end was between Photon and Iron. Mm-hmm. But I personally like Iron more because it was 11k attacker versus Photon of just being a 9k attacker.
Right. And then for you, Silky, did you build this with Chaos Breaker in mind specifically, or was it a generalist deck?
When I went into the deck building, I sort of thought I didn't think I was gonna do it. I just thought this is what I'm gonna run against every other deck. What I should have done was I should have found a G-Zone card that was a Blue Wave, that it was a double rare that nobody uses it. But right now, that is our best first try because it powers up our Blue Wave rear guards. I ended up making that mistake. Also, grade 2 and grade 1s are interesting. My grade 2 lineup is 4-4-4.
For Foivos, for Medla,
and for Luciano.
Okay.
Because the guy that counterblasts and drops a card, that is a way too heavy cost.
Yeah.
That's just my personal opinion on how this deck should have read. I liked it. I'm straying away from the question here, but from what I built of the deck, I think that was the best case scenario. Of course, it needs more play testing, that's for sure. But I did not build it because I was going to face it. I built it because that's most likely going to be unless we get more units to show.
Right. So I want to go back to a point in game 2. You went into Flood Hazard and you really made really good use of your skills. You had 2 Medlas in the back row, and you threw down a perfect guard or no, it was you had the triangle lock, but you threw down a Medla, and then you used a Foibos along with the Perfect Guard skill to bind it to get you to that fourth attack. If that had, do you think that turn would have gone, that game would have gone differently had you not been able to pull off that turn?
Yes, because I would have not pulled up pressure.
Right. So in situations like the triangle lock, what do you think is best to do as a blue wave player? Do you think it's better to just kind of wait it out and burn away their resources by just kind of letting them continue to do things and hoping for the best, or do you turn on the aggression and work with what you've got?
As a blue wave player with the new stuff, it's really tricky to play against Chaos Breaker. If they have their triangle lock, you really, really have to read their hand. You really, really do have to read their hand. Why? Because if by any chance if they have your trigger and they go into the arena, most likely your plays are going to be hidden. No luck, or if by any chance some miracle happens and you have two medless, maybe you can pull off something. That's a maybe. What I should have done is I should have probably bumped down my way ones and added the ones that can swing from the back row. That would have hugely helped me because that would have reached for battle more.
Right.
And talking about like game changing things, like in all 3 games on the grade 2 rush, you couldn't restand every single time. And every single time you got him to 3 damage, but couldn't get that 4th damage in. How much do you think that would have changed?
It would have changed a lot. Honestly, I'm not kicking myself in the teeth because I got to heal. I mean, come on. It would have really helped me a lot because as a Link Joker player and as a Chaos Breaker player, your best case is having pressure and limiting their hands. So that way, when you second strike, that should be your kill.
Now, with that, I do want to ask, since we were playing with fixed hands, it never came up that you guys had inoptimal rides, inoptimal turns. It was that all came later on when there were more factors into it. Since we were playing with those fixed hands, I want to ask you both, how much do you think it would have affected the game if you had been on the alternate grade 3? I know you were running Original Chaos and you were running Anger Boil. How much do you think it would have changed the game if you had been forced to ride them instead? We'll start with Gabriel.
If I was forced to ride Chaos, I will Chaos Breaker Dragon. I'd probably have to rely more on Universe as my go-to first ride for most things, and then Deluge afterwards. And I would also lose more cards on hand if I had to go to grade 3 first, because Chaos Breakers will lock a card, you have to counterblast and discard a card, where Crisis is free of just when it's plays counterblast. Locks a card. So it would have had me have less cards in hand, but it would also give me opportunity to kill more units as well and get more hands, since Chaos Breaker kill as many units as you want versus Crisis is only kill 1 unit per turn.
So, I guess piggybacking off of that question, what made you choose Crisis over Original Chaos Breaker every time for this particular matchup?
It's just that Crisis is a lot better as an early game card versus a later game card, because pretty much as you go into further later game, you probably want to be on Chaos Breaker and then blow their board away, and then drop to a really mean Alt Wilder, so you can just eat away more and more of their hand. But Crisis is just way better just early game versus Chaos Breaker.
Okay. So I'll transition over to Silky. What do you think would have changed if you were on Anger Boil?
I would have relied more on Petra Boil. Having the ability to resend 2 units no matter what column they are, in game +3, that would have boosted maybe more damage. But with Valios, I kind of have more pressure because, as you saw most of the games, he got crits. And he got triggers, most likely. But he couldn't boost up his. That allows Blue Wave to be just straight up aggressive, just swing at the Vanguard, don't give a shit about
Right.
it. With Anger Boil, that would have set up uh, situational plays, such as let me stand these two specific units and swing at this one. Use more abilities and just go from there.
Also, if you were on Anger Boil, you would also have a harder chance because you
Yes.
also was locked away.
Yes. I would have had more harder chance to go against Anger Boil. Anger Boil is definitely a 3 of, and I should have probably thought of that, but it's definitely a 3 because I just want to have that option of play over any Tetra Boil. Because Tetra Boil, come on, it's a pretty good card.
Right.
Pretty good.
Pretty good.
And that's why we're kind of doing this type of event, so we can not only double it for testing for you guys, but also kind of see how these theoretical matchups work. Now, going into this matchup again in the future, what do you think you guys have learned? I'll start with Silky, since there was a lot of opportunity for you to learn from this. What would you do differently the next time?
Next time, I would have probably positioned my riggers better, such as Medla, for example. Two out of the 3 of the games I messed up where I put her in the front row. That was a big mistake. That's because Medla takes advantage of being in the back row. And if Gabe by any chance goes Chaos Universe first, he blocks Medla bottom. So I can't do anything there anymore. Anything other than that, grade 1 should be optimal as to picking really specific grade 1, such as, for example, like I mentioned earlier, the one that connects up from the back row. That allows me, if by any chance Gates lock it, that's fine. It still counts as a battle. Yeah, it's just depending on optimal builds and optimal plays. But I'm confident I can do cats for sure. But just Gabe has more. I honestly have to tell you, this is my first time playing with this guy, with the new blue.
Okay.
But yeah, anything other than that, if you play smart enough, Blow is deadly with that Gabe. It's really good.
And for you, Gabe, what do you think you would do differently?
Between games like 1 and 2, I kind of changed my hand of having more grade 2s so that when I do get into later in the game, I'd have more access to locking away more Silky's board. But other than that, mostly just have to gauge what units that are on board and how much opportunity I have to prevent my opponent from calling units future in the game of just continuously locking. Because lock is such a strong mechanic that it restricts basically every deck in the game. But also with Link Joker is that if they get rushed down too early, then I have to work around that, and so that's why if I do get rushed down early, I just have to find a way to just chuck everything lock everything I can, so that my opponent can't get as much advantage of just keep going in on my Vanguard. But other than that, I think that's
Okay. Sorry, I'm just kind of talking away. But one of the things that I brought up while you guys were playing, and I know y'all didn't hear it, we were in a different room. But I brought up how a lot of the times there's kind of this dichotomy in Vanguard where we have Blue Wave, for example, making very decisive plays really pays off and really makes things makes your win so much better. Like in game one was a really strong showing for you. But in games 2 and 3, Gabe kind of took a very measured style to everything. Every decision, every play had a purpose. Every single card that he played fulfilled a role. Not that Blue Waves don't, but it was aggression versus calm temperament. How do you think that going into these types of scenarios, how do you think your mindset affects how you play these things? do you think second guessing yourself as an Aquaforce player can really put you at a disadvantage? The same thing for Chaos. Do you really think that, like, I know that it has an effect, but how much do you think that second guessing yourself can impact these decks specifically?
You want to start with
Yeah, I'll start with you, Silky.
That's an Aquaforce player in general. Having facing a Joker should put you home. Do not just blow the tables like, holy shit, here's my worst matchup. No. Any deck's beat. It just depends on how you play it. Second guessing in blue wave specifically is, I say 50-50. Most likely 75-25 as the 75-ish. You shouldn't guess yourself. Just go with your plan. Why is that? It's because if you think you can do that much, but you second guess yourself, you're gonna think, oh, I have a better plan, or maybe this plan's better. But in events such as time events, you can't be doing that. You just have to stick with what you have. But yeah, just my message. Don't second guess yourself against Link Joker. Just have a cool collective mind. Say, you know what, this deck's beatable. If I can play it better, just stick to this plan, and most likely you're gonna come out good at the end.
Gabriel.
So with second guessing, pretty much for me, what I go with is pretty much how much of the board I can keep at bay at a time. So especially with like prices now, my opponent at first chooses a unit to lock, and then I go from there. And I pretty much just work around just getting rid of any troublesome units like Medla or any form of resist units, and then I just work off of that. So pretty much I try to, at most, to get the triangle lock or just my opponent's front row locked as soon as possible, because in most decks that's pretty much the only way they can attack. But after that, I just pretty much just also try to get rid of my opponent's Vanguard booster, because that also can be a troublesome regard circle, especially in like dark regulators, where they can just drop and then enigmatic assassin, which will make Gilderai, instead of swing for 36, you can also swing for 56. So I also have to work with that. It's mostly just working around what matchup you have and how much of their board you can keep under control.
All right. Well, do you have anything for him, Redbeard?
I got one more question for both of you, and that is, after you guys have played the decks and tested them, after your respective sets come out, how good do you think meta-wise your individual decks are going to be at regionals?
So for me, with like a Chaos player, I think Chaos will probably be like tier like 1.5, maybe 1, just because it's able to restrict most plays that most of the decks that are currently dominant at the moment, and it's also able to have a form of aggression through like Blue Ball and also Deluge of getting more and more cards out of your opponent's hand. But also, Chaos players will also have to worry about that Messiah is also getting support, so they also have to worry about, hey, I just locked cards out of your hand for free. Okay, gave me free cards to unlock. So you just have to work around that. But other than that, I see the deck doing pretty well after the Link Joker set drops. It just has to work around its troublesome matchups.
That's Blue Wave. It's hard to tell right now because we haven't seen our full traders, and we need to see our Gigas, which we haven't seen. But so far, after testing that against one of the hardest matchups, I think Blue Wave will be competitive because value is a scary. It really is a scary card.
It sucks if you're Angel Feather player.
It sucks if you're Angel Feather. But it's just value. It just gives the bread and butter to what I put in. It's just straight rushing without traders.
All right. Well, do you guys have any parting words for each other? No salt. I saw enough of that placed as critical counters.
I'm just gonna say Deluge is just really an aggressive card.
Mm-hmm.
Really an aggressive card. And it's a really good card. Not gonna lie.
Yeah. I like Valios as a card, in my opinion, because also Force deck that I plan on doing is also Blue Wave, and it's really, really good. It makes your opponent, hey, I have to guard every attack that comes at me because I'm not gaining power.
Man, that sounded like marriage counseling. They're both like, say one thing you like about your opponent's deck.
Well, this is how we keep our blood pressure relatively low. No salt.
There's still more tests though, that's for sure. But
Absolutely.
I think we're going into a right path.
Yeah, and both of your decks felt very natural. It felt very good. Even watching it, we're kind of analyzing the good and the bad plays that both of you made, and it was almost entirely good. There was very little that we just went, I don't know what he's thinking here. Yeah. So it's a good sign that both of these decks run smoothly, but it's also gonna kind of be determined by the player. And I think we made a good choice having you guys pilot everything. I think this went really well. Do you guys have anything else to say before we get it done?
I'd just like to say, if you're in the ATX area, just don't be afraid to do this. That'd be pretty fun.
Yeah. Yeah, we're always welcome for more people, so just come on down and see us, and we'll make something happen. But again, we're here with Silky and Gabe, and they were playing our future fight for the day. We really appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, I'm Baldylocks.
I'm Captain Redbeard.
And that'll be it for us. Y'all have a good one.